Get your filthy hands away from my kitchen! Vincent's voice explodes across the pristine dining room of his Michelin-starred restaurant. You're a dishwasher, not a scientist. Get back to scrubbing pots where you belong. 28-year-old Maya stands frozen near the kitchen doors, her hands still wet from washing dishes, watching the food critic convulse in his chair. The most important review of Vincent's career is happening right now, and his signature dish is killing someone. Chef Vincent, please listen. Maya tries again, her voice urgent. The amaranth and the acid in the— Shut up! Vincent turns on her with pure venom in his eyes. You think because you watch cooking shows while washing dishes that you understand molecular gastronomy? You people always think you know better than trained professionals. Around the dining room, the city's most influential food critics and restaurant investors watch in horror as the renowned critic's face turns purple. His throat is closing. His hands claw at his collar. Paramedics are 3 minutes away. But what Vincent doesn't know about his stupid dishwasher is about to save his restaurant and destroy his arrogance in the most spectacular way possible. Because the woman he's screaming at holds a PhD in biochemistry. The woman he pays minimum wage to scrub pots spent 6 years researching food chemistry at one of the nation's top universities. And the woman he just called ignorant can see exactly what's killing his guest. A toxic chemical reaction he created by combining ingredients that should never touch. Maya watches the critic's lips turn blue, watches Vincent's entire career circle the drain, watches 200 wealthy diners pull out their phones to record the disaster. She has about 90 seconds to decide. Let the racist chef who's humiliated her for 2 years face the consequences of his ignorance, or save a man's life by revealing the expertise she's been hiding. Vincent's restaurant, Étoile, occupies a converted warehouse in the city's trendy arts district. Exposed brick walls, industrial lighting, open kitchen where diners can watch culinary theater, the kind of place where dinner for 2 costs $800 and reservations booked 6 months ahead. This isn't just any restaurant. This is the restaurant where tech billionaires bring clients to impress them, where celebrities celebrate in private dining rooms, where marriage proposals happen under crystal chandeliers that cost more than most people's cars. Vincent built this empire from nothing. Immigrant story, pulled himself up, worked his way from line cook to owner chef. Now 43 years old, he's spent 15 years perfecting his reputation. James Beard Award finalist 3 times. Michelin star for 7 consecutive years. His cookbook sold 200,000 copies. He's a regular guest on morning cooking shows, teaching suburban home cooks his revolutionary techniques. But beneath the success story lives an ego the size of his kitchen. Vincent believes his culinary education makes him infallible. He studied in France, trained under masters, earned his expertise through years of discipline. Anyone without those credentials is beneath consideration. The kitchen staff knows their place. Sous chefs who graduated from elite culinary schools. Line cooks with impressive resumes, pastry chef who trained in Belgium. Everyone comes from the right backgrounds, knows the right people, speaks the right language. Then there's the support staff, the people Vincent barely sees as human. Servers who smile through his abuse because tips at Étoile pay their rent. Bussers who clean tables while being invisible. And the dishwashing crew, hidden in the back, hands raw from harsh detergent, working split shifts for minimum wage plus occasional meal scraps. That's where Maya has spent the last 2 years. She arrives every day at 2 p.m., right when lunch service ends and the mountain of dirty dishes begins. Works until 6 p.m. cleaning the lunch mess. Then comes back at 10 p.m. to handle dinner service dishes until 2 a.m. 8 hours split across 12-hour days, 4 days a week. 32 hours that pay $15 an hour, barely enough to cover her studio apartment rent and student loan payments. Her workspace is a narrow corridor behind the main kitchen, industrial dishwasher that runs so hot the air shimmers. 3-compartment sink for hand-washing delicate items, racks of clean dishes waiting to be put away, and the constant stream of dirty plates, pots, pans, utensils that flow from the kitchen like a river that never stops. Most dishwashers last 3 months before the heat, the pace, and the disrespect break them. Maya has lasted 2 years because she needs the money, and because, in a twisted way, she finds the work meditative. Hands busy, mind free to think about chemistry problems that no longer matter to her career. She wasn't supposed to end up here. The plan was different. Maya grew up in a small town, daughter of a postal worker and an elementary school teacher. Good grades, scholarship to state university, fascination with how things worked at the molecular level. She'd been the kid who did science experiments in her garage, who read chemistry textbooks for fun, who knew by age 12 that she wanted to understand the building blocks of everything. College was hard but achievable. Full academic scholarship plus work study covered most costs. She graduated top of her class with a chemistry degree, got accepted to a prestigious PhD program with full funding. Everything was working according to plan. The PhD program was where things got complicated. 6 years studying food chemistry and biochemical interactions. Her research focused on how different compounds interact in cooking, how heat and acid and enzymes change food at the molecular level. She published papers in peer-reviewed journals. Her dissertation advisor called her work groundbreaking, but then came the disaster that destroyed everything. Her advisor, Dr. Richard Thornton, had been stealing her research, publishing her findings under his name, claiming credit for her discoveries. When Maya found out and confronted him, he got ahead of the situation, accused her of academic fraud, said she'd been fabricating data, plagiarizing sources, violating research ethics. It was his word against hers. A distinguished professor with 30 years of reputation versus a graduate student with no institutional power. The university believed him. They revoked her PhD, expelled her from the program, flagged her academic record with fraud allegations. Maya hired a lawyer with money she didn't have. The legal battle dragged on for 18 months. Eventually, they settled. The university agreed to change her record from expelled for fraud to left program voluntarily. But she'd never get her PhD, never work in academic research again, never have the career she'd spent 6 years building. She was 32 years old, $180,000 in student loan debt, no degree despite 6 years of graduate work, and unemployable in her field. Academic jobs required PhDs she didn't have. Industry jobs required credentials she'd been stripped of. Her publication record was tainted by the fraud allegations that followed her everywhere, so she ended up washing dishes. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd spent 6 years studying food chemistry at the molecular level, understanding how heat and acid and enzymes transformed ingredients, researching the biochemistry of taste and texture. Now she spent her days scrubbing the remnants of meals she'd be more qualified to create than the chefs cooking them. But Maya had learned to keep her knowledge hidden. The one time she'd tried to help, mentioning to a sous chef that his sauce was breaking because he'd added cold butter too quickly, had ended with Vincent screaming that dishwashers don't give cooking advice. She'd been written up for overstepping boundaries. So she'd learned to be invisible. Show up, wash dishes, keep her expertise to herself, collect her paycheck, survive. Until tonight, when being invisible became impossible. Tonight was the most important night in Etoile's history. Vincent had somehow convinced Marcus Webb, the country's most influential food critic, to finally review the restaurant. Marcus worked for the premier food magazine, the kind of publication that could make or break careers with a single review. Vincent had been preparing for weeks. New menu items, special ingredients flown in from Europe. The entire staff drilled on perfect execution. Everything had to be flawless. A good review from Marcus Webb could push Etoile from 1 Michelin star to 2, maybe even 3. That meant more prestige, higher prices, investment opportunities, cookbook deals, television appearances. This review could transform Vincent from successful chef to culinary icon. The dining room was packed with the city's elite. Vincent had invited every important person he knew to witness his triumph. Restaurant investors, food magazine editors, celebrity chefs, wealthy regulars who treated Etoile like their private club. 200 people ready to celebrate Vincent's genius. Marcus Webb arrived at 8 p.m., fashionably late, commanding the room's attention just by walking in. 62 years old, silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of presence that made restaurant owners nervous. He'd destroyed careers with harsh reviews. He'd created overnight sensations with glowing praise. His opinion was currency in the culinary world. Vincent personally greeted him, showing him to the best table by the window, then retreated to the kitchen to personally oversee every dish that would be served. Nothing could go wrong. Nothing would go wrong. Maya was in her dish room during all of this, working through the mountain of plates from earlier dinner service. She could hear the kitchen's energy ratcheting up, Vincent barking orders, sous chefs moving with military precision. Every dish that went out had to be perfect. The tasting menu Vincent had designed for Marcus consisted of 12 courses, small plates showcasing technique and creativity, each course paired with wine. 3 hours of culinary storytelling meant to demonstrate that Vincent deserved recognition as one of the country's finest chefs. The first 6 courses went perfectly. Maya could track the success by the dirty plates returning to her station. Barely any food left on them. Good sign. Diners had scraped their plates clean. Then came course 7, Vincent's signature dish, the creation he'd spent months developing, his masterpiece. Amaranth-crusted venison with cherry gastrique and activated charcoal dust. Maya had watched him develop this dish over the past month, seen the ingredient lists, noticed the components. And that's when alarm bells had started ringing in her chemist brain. But she'd said nothing. She'd learned that lesson already. Dishwashers don't question chefs. Now she heard the plate being prepared, Vincent calling out instructions. The whole kitchen focused on making this one dish absolutely perfect for the critic who could change everything. The plate went out to Marcus Webb's table. The dining room fell silent, watching the critic's first bite. This was the moment that mattered. The signature dish. The statement of Vincent's artistic vision. Marcus took his first bite, chewed thoughtfully. His expression was unreadable. He took a second bite, then a third. That's when his face changed. Maya was carrying a rack of clean plates back to the kitchen when she heard the commotion. Voices rising, someone shouting. She looked through the kitchen doors into the dining room. Marcus Webb was standing, one hand at his throat, the other gripping the table. His face was red. No, not red, turning purple. His eyes were wide with panic. "Call 911!" someone screamed. Vincent burst from the kitchen into the dining room, his face a mask of horror. "What's happening? What's wrong?" Marcus tried to speak but couldn't. His airway was closing. He stumbled, knocking over his chair. Other diners jumped up, pulling out phones, recording the disaster unfolding in real time. Maya's chemistry training kicked in instantly. She saw the symptoms. Severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, throat swelling shut, minutes until death if not treated. But it wasn't a typical food allergy. Marcus Webb had eaten 6 courses already without problems. This was something else. Her mind raced through the ingredients in the dish. Amaranth, venison, cherry gastrique, activated charcoal. She'd seen Vincent's full ingredient list when she'd washed the prep bowls earlier, and then she saw it, the chemical reaction that was killing him. The amaranth crust included a stabilizing agent, a polysaccharide that Vincent had added to give it texture. The cherry gastrique was extremely acidic, reduced down to concentrate the flavor. And the activated charcoal, which Vincent thought was just a trendy garnish, was interacting with the polysaccharide and the acid to create something toxic. It wasn't an allergic reaction, it was chemical poisoning. The 3 compounds together had formed a substance that irritated the throat and airways, causing them to swell and close. Maya pushed through the kitchen doors into the dining room. "Chef Vincent, the dish, it's a chemical reaction. The amaranth stabilizer and the acid and the charcoal, get out of here!" Vincent whirled on her, his face twisted with rage and panic. "You stupid girl, this is your fault. You must have contaminated something." "No, listen. The polysaccharide in the amaranth is reacting with—" "I said get out!" Vincent grabbed her arm, trying to physically push her back toward the kitchen. "You're fired! Security! Get this woman out of my restaurant!" Marcus Webb collapsed onto the floor. Someone was screaming that the ambulance was 4 minutes away. Diners were backing away from the table, filming everything, social media posts already going viral. Maya wrenched her arm free from Vincent's grip. "You need to make him vomit. Right now. Get the food out of his stomach before more of it absorbs into his system. You don't know what you're talking about." Vincent turned back to Marcus. "Someone get me a pen. We need to do an emergency tracheotomy." "No!" Maya pushed past him, dropping to her knees beside Marcus. "That won't help. It's not his airway that's blocked. It's the inflammation. You need to—" A security guard grabbed her from behind, lifting her to her feet. "I can save him!" Maya shouted. "Just listen to me. The chemical reaction! Get her out of here now! Vincent's voice was pure hysteria. She's trying to cover up what she did! She contaminated my food! This is her fault! The security guard started dragging Maya toward the exit. She struggled against his grip, watching Marcus's face turn a deeper shade of purple. She had maybe 90 seconds to make a choice that would define everything. Let them drag her out. Let Vincent's ignorance kill a man. Let the consequences fall where they deserve to fall. Or break free. Force them to listen. Save a life by revealing the expertise she'd been hiding for 2 years. Risk everything one more time. Maya made her choice. She drove her heel down hard on the security guard's instep. He yelped and loosened his grip just enough. She twisted free, dropping to the floor and scrambling back to Marcus. "Someone film this!" she shouted to the room full of people with their phones out. "Film everything I'm about to do. I need witnesses." She looked up at Vincent, who was frozen in shock. "Your signature dish is poison. You created a toxic chemical reaction with 3 ingredients that should never be combined. The polysaccharide from the amaranth stabilizer reacts with the high acidity of your cherry gastric. When you add activated charcoal to that mixture, it catalyzes a reaction that produces irritant compounds. Those compounds are causing severe inflammation of his throat and airways." The entire restaurant had fallen silent. Every phone was pointed at her. Hundreds of thousands of people would see this on social media within minutes. "You're insane," Vincent whispered. "You're just a dishwasher. You don't know—" "I have a PhD in biochemistry," Maya said clearly, her voice carrying across the stunned room. "I spent 6 years researching food chemistry and molecular interactions. I know exactly what's happening to him, and I know how to stop it." She turned to one of the servers standing nearby, paralyzed with shock. "You! Go to the bar. I need baking soda, water, and milk, now." The server didn't move. "Now!" Maya's command voice broke through the server's paralysis. She ran toward the bar. Maya turned back to Marcus, who was barely conscious now, his skin an alarming shade of blue-gray. "Mr. Webb, can you hear me? I'm going to help you. But you need to trust me and do exactly what I say." His eyes focused on her slightly. A tiny nod. The server returned with the items. Maya grabbed the baking soda, dumping a tablespoon into a glass of water, stirring rapidly. "This is going to neutralize the acid in your stomach and stop the reaction from progressing. You need to drink this, then you need to vomit. Do you understand?" Another tiny nod. Maya helped him sit up slightly, supporting his head. "Drink this. All of it." Marcus managed to swallow the baking soda solution. Maya counted to 10, giving it time to work. Then she turned him on his side and pressed 2 fingers to the back of his throat. He vomited violently. The bitter contents of his stomach spilled onto Etoile's expensive floor, and the relief was immediate. Marcus gasped, air rushing back into his airways. His color started returning from blue-gray to red. He was breathing, gasping, coughing, but breathing. Maya grabbed the milk, helping him sip slowly. "This will coat your throat and esophagus, protect them from any remaining acid. Small sips. You're going to be okay?" Paramedics burst through the door at that moment, equipment in hand. Maya quickly explained what had happened, what she'd done, what they'd find in his system. They listened, checked Marcus's vitals, confirmed he was stabilizing. One of the paramedics looked at Maya with something approaching awe. "You just saved his life. Another 2 minutes and his airway would have closed completely." The restaurant remained frozen. 200 people staring at the dishwasher who'd just demonstrated more knowledge than the Michelin-starred chef. Maya slowly stood, looking at Vincent. "Your signature dish is toxic. The chemical reaction I described will happen every time you serve that combination of ingredients. You're lucky only 1 person ate it tonight." "That's—" Vincent's face cycled through emotions too fast to track. "That's impossible. I tested this dish dozens of times. It's perfectly safe." "No," Maya said calmly. "You tested it on yourself and your staff, people who'd built up a tolerance to the compounds through repeated low-level exposure. Mr. Webb was eating it for the first time. His system had no defense against the reaction. That's why he went into immediate distress." She picked up Vincent's dropped chef's coat from where it had fallen during the chaos, handed it to him. "You might want to check the rest of your menu. There's a reason certain ingredients don't traditionally go together. It's not just about taste. It's about chemistry. Vincent took his coat with shaking hands. His entire world was crumbling. His signature dish was poisonous. His perfect night had become a nightmare. His career was being destroyed in real time on hundreds of phones. And the dishwasher he'd been screaming at all night had just demonstrated that she knew more about food science than he'd learned in his entire culinary career. The first golden beat was complete, the moment when the underestimated expert proves their knowledge is real. But there was more coming. Because social media was already exploding. And Vincent's night was about to get much, much worse. Maya stood in the middle of Etoile's dining room, surrounded by 200 witnesses with their phones pointed at her, waiting to see what happened next. The paramedics had Marcus on a stretcher, his breathing stabilized, color returning to normal. Before they wheeled him out, he gestured for Maya to come closer. "What's your name?" His voice was hoarse but clear. "Maya. Maya, you saved my life." He gripped her hand weakly. "Thank you." "Just basic chemistry," she said. "Anyone with biochem training would have seen it." "But you're a dishwasher here?" Confusion crossed his face. "It's complicated. Long story." Marcus looked past her to Vincent, who stood frozen by his kitchen doors. "I'll be writing about this. All of it. The dish, the reaction, and the chemist who worked as your dishwasher while you almost killed me." Then the paramedics wheeled him out, leaving Maya standing in the center of a restaurant that had gone completely silent. Vincent finally found his voice. "Everyone, please." He tried to smile, tried to recover his composure. "There's been an unfortunate incident, but our guest is stable. Let's all return to—" "Your food is poisonous," someone called out from the crowd. A woman Maya recognized as a food blogger with 2 million followers. "You just poisoned Marcus Webb." "It was an accident, a rare reaction. These things happen in experimental cuisine." "Experimental cuisine?" The blogger stood, phone still recording. "You didn't even know what you were serving. Your dishwasher had to explain the chemistry to you." Other voices joined in. The crowd wasn't sympathetic anymore. They were watching a emperor has no clothes moment play out in real time. "She said she has a PhD in biochemistry," someone else called out. "Is that true? Why is someone with a PhD washing your dishes?" All eyes turned to Maya. She stood there in her simple work clothes, hands still damp from dishwater, facing down a room full of people who suddenly wanted answers. "It's true," she said simply. "I have a doctorate in biochemistry. I specialized in food chemistry. I spent 6 years researching how compounds interact at the molecular level." "Then why are you washing dishes?" The question came from multiple directions. Maya took a breath. This was the part she'd hoped to avoid, but there was no escaping it now. "I was expelled from my PhD program. False accusations of academic fraud. My advisor was stealing my research. When I confronted him, he destroyed my career. I lost my degree, my reputation, my ability to work in my field. So I ended up here." The room digested this. Phones captured every word. "And Vincent knew about this?" the food blogger asked. "No, I never told anyone. I needed the job. I kept my head down and washed dishes." "But you could have been creating the menu. You could have been preventing disasters like tonight. Instead, he had you scrubbing pots?" Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to. The absurdity spoke for itself. Vincent finally exploded. "This is ridiculous. She's lying. She's just trying to cover up for contaminating my food. I want her arrested for attempted murder." The room's energy shifted dangerously. Several people laughed out loud. The food blogger's voice cut through the noise. "We all just watched her save Marcus Webb's life using chemistry knowledge. We watched you refuse to listen while a man was dying. We watched you blame her for your own mistake. And now you want her arrested?" "She's fired." Vincent pointed at Maya with a shaking finger. "You're fired. Get out of my restaurant." "She already saved someone from your poison cooking," a voice called from the back. "Maybe she should be running your kitchen instead of you." The crowd murmured agreement. This wasn't going how Vincent had planned. Maya raised her hands. "I don't want to run anything. I just want to go home. Mr. Webb is safe. That's what matters." She started walking toward the kitchen, intending to collect her things and leave through the back door. But the food blogger wasn't done. Wait. Before you go, can you explain exactly what happened? The chemistry? I think people need to understand this wasn't just bad luck. This was preventable. Maya hesitated. Then she saw the phone still recording, saw the chance to explain real science to people who might actually listen. Okay, basic food chemistry lesson. She walked over to an empty table where someone's abandoned dinner sat. Chef Vincent created a dish with 3 components that interact in dangerous ways. The amaranth crust used a polysaccharide stabilizer, probably xanthan gum or guar gum, to hold its shape. That's common in molecular gastronomy. She picked up a fork, using it to point at invisible components. The cherry gas streak was reduced until extremely acidic, probably pH 2.5 or lower. That's also normal for a gas streak. The activated charcoal was added as a garnish, a trendy visual element. The room leaned in. This was better than any cooking show. Here's the problem. When you combine a polysaccharide with high acidity in the presence of activated charcoal, you create a catalytic reaction. The charcoal accelerates the breakdown of the polysaccharide into smaller molecules. Some of those molecules, in that specific acidic environment, form compounds that are severe irritants to mucous membranes. She saw confused faces. Think of it like this. Each ingredient is safe alone. Even 2 of them together would be fine. But all 3 together create something new, something toxic. It's like mixing bleach and ammonia. Both are cleaning products, but together, they create poison gas. Understanding dawned across faces. This wasn't magic. This was just chemistry. Could any chef have known this? Someone asked. Any chef with training in food chemistry, yes. It's not obscure knowledge. It's why certain combinations are traditional and others aren't. Culinary traditions evolved over centuries to avoid these exact problems. When you start experimenting with molecular gastronomy without understanding the underlying chemistry, you can create dangerous situations. She looked directly at Vincent. That's why experimental cuisine needs scientific understanding. Creativity is important, but so is knowing what you're doing at the molecular level. The second golden beat was landing. She wasn't just knowledgeable, she was more qualified to design Vincent's menu than he was. Vincent's face had gone from red to white. He was watching his reputation dissolve in real time. His signature dish was poison. His dishwasher knew more than him. And worst of all, hundreds of phones were recording every second for social media. Everyone please, he tried again desperately. Let's not overreact. This was one incident. One person had a reaction. That doesn't mean... Actually, a server's voice interrupted. Maya turned to see Sophie, one of the experienced waitresses, stepping forward nervously. Actually, Mr. Vincent, 3 other people complained of throat irritation from that dish tonight. They just didn't say anything because you'd seemed so proud of it. Vincent's eyes went wide. What? Table 12, Table 7, and Table 19. They all mentioned their throats felt strange after eating it. We told them it was probably the charcoal, very avant-garde, that kind of thing. But they all had the same reaction Marcus did, just not as severe. The room exploded with noise. Multiple people poisoned. A pattern, not an accident. And, Sophie continued, emboldened now, 2 line cooks quit last week because they were getting chronic sore throats. They'd been tasting that dish over and over during development. You told them they were just being dramatic. Maya closed her eyes. Even worse than she'd thought. Chronic, low-level poisoning of his own staff. The kind of thing that would make tolerances build up while slowly damaging their health. Chef Vincent, she said quietly, you need to pull that dish from the menu, tonight, right now, and you need to call everyone who's eaten it in the past month. Make sure they're okay. I will not! His voice rose to a shout. This is sabotage! Someone contaminated my ingredients! Someone is trying to destroy me! The food blogger shook her head. The only person destroying you is you. You created poison, your dishwasher tried to warn you, you fired her for saving a man's life, and now you're refusing to take responsibility. She held up her phone. This is going viral. Right now. Millions of views already. Poisonous Michelin star is trending. This isn't going away. Vincent seemed to shrink. The reality was setting in. His career wasn't just damaged. It was over. He looked at Maya with something close to desperation. You could fix this. You know the chemistry. You could redesign the dish, make it safe. Please. Maya looked at him. This man who'd screamed at her for 2 years, who'd called her stupid, who'd blamed her for his mistakes, who'd tried to have her arrested, now begging for her help. No, she said simply. Find another chemist. I'm sure your culinary school contacts can recommend someone with proper credentials. She turned to walk away, then stopped, turned back. Actually, one more thing. She addressed the room, knowing this would be captured and shared. If you work in restaurants and someone tries to tell you about a safety concern, whether it's a dishwasher, a line cook, a server, listen to them. Kitchens have a hierarchy, but chemistry doesn't care about hierarchy. Poison is poison whether it's identified by a chef or by someone washing dishes. She looked at Vincent. You could have listened. You chose not to. That's on you. Then Maya walked through the kitchen, grabbed her backpack from her locker, and walked out the back door into the night air. Behind her, she could hear the dining room erupting, guests demanding refunds, staff members quitting on the spot, Vincent's carefully constructed empire collapsing like a house of cards. She'd saved a life tonight, revealed expertise she'd been hiding, and probably just made herself unemployable at every restaurant in the city. But as she walked to the bus stop, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. She felt like a scientist again. The third golden beat was still coming. The moment when everyone would understand exactly what they'd lost by dismissing her. But that would take a few more hours to unfold. Maya's phone started buzzing before she even reached the bus stop. Notifications exploding. Her number wasn't public, but apparently someone had found her old LinkedIn profile from her graduate school days. Friend requests, messages, tags, and videos she hadn't consented to being in. She ignored them all and got on the bus. Just wanted to get home, take a shower, try to process what had just happened. But the universe wasn't done with her yet. Her phone rang, unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Is this Maya? A woman's voice, professional but excited. Yes, who's this? Jessica Tran, food editor at the National Culinary Review. I just watched the video from Etoile, the whole thing, all 30 minutes of it. Maya, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I just did basic chemistry. You did what 12 kitchen staff and a Michelin-starred chef couldn't do. You identified a complex chemical reaction in seconds, explained it to lay people clearly, and saved someone's life. And you did it all while being screamed at and physically removed from the room. Maya sat in the back of the bus, not sure where this was going. I want to interview you, Jessica continued. Full feature article about your background, what happened tonight, and what it says about expertise and discrimination in professional kitchens. This story needs to be told. I don't know if that's a good idea. The video has 3 million views already. It's going to be on national news by morning. The story's already out, but right now it's just scattered social media posts. Someone needs to tell it properly. Let it be you controlling the narrative. Maya thought about that. Dr. Thornton had controlled the narrative when he destroyed her academic career. Vincent had tried to control the narrative tonight by blaming her. Maybe it was time she told her own story. Okay, she said, but I want to talk about the science too, not just the drama. People need to understand why molecular gastronomy requires actual molecular understanding. Absolutely. Can you come to our offices tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.? I'll be there. They hung up. Maya stared out the bus window at the city passing by. 12 hours ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was going viral. Her phone buzzed again. Text from a number she recognized. Sophie, the server from Etoile. Maya, 8 people just quit. Kitchen is falling apart. Vincent is freaking out. He's asking for your number. Should I give it to him? Maya typed back. No. Then she added, but tell him to call a food safety inspector and maybe take some chemistry classes. Sophie replied with a laughing emoji and, you're my hero. More texts came in. Other restaurant workers she barely knew, all saying versions of the same thing. Thank you for standing up. You showed them? I've been dismissed like that too. It hit Maya that this wasn't just about her. This was about every expert who'd been dismissed because they weren't in the right position. Every skilled person told to stay in their lane. Every intelligent voice silenced by hierarchy. Her phone rang again. Another unknown number. Maya, this is Marcus Webb. Her heart jumped. Mr. Webb, how are you feeling? Much better, thanks to you. His voice was still rough but strong. I'm at the hospital for observation, but they say I'll be fine. No permanent damage because you acted so quickly. I'm glad. I was worried. Maya, I need to tell you something. I've been reviewing food for 32 years. I've seen everything. But I've never seen anything like what you did tonight. Not just the chemistry knowledge, the courage to push past everyone trying to silence you. You saved my life while being screamed at and physically dragged away. Anyone with my training would have... No. His voice was firm. Most people would have stayed quiet, would have avoided the conflict, would have let the expert handle it, even though the expert was wrong. You didn't. And that matters. Maya didn't know what to say. I'm writing about this, Marcus continued. Full feature review, but not of the restaurant, of you, of what happened, of what it means that a biochemistry PhD was washing dishes while a chef with no science training was creating poison. That seems harsh. It's true. Vincent has a Michelin star but doesn't understand basic food chemistry. You have expertise he desperately needs, but he treated you like you were stupid. That's the story. That's what people need to understand. He paused. Also, when I'm recovered, I'd like to take you to dinner. Somewhere safe where the food is prepared by people who understand chemistry. I want to hear your full story. You don't have to do that. I want to. You saved my life. The least I can do is buy you dinner and make sure your story gets told properly. They talked for a few more minutes, then said goodbye. Maya leaned back in her bus seat, exhausted but somehow energized. The bus dropped her at her stop. She walked the 3 blocks to her studio apartment, a tiny space that cost too much but was all she could afford. As she climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, her phone buzzed continuously. She glanced at the screen. The video had hit 5 million views. Poison Chef and the Dishwasher Hero were both trending. She unlocked her apartment door, dropped her backpack, and finally allowed herself to really process what had happened. She'd broken her 2-year silence, revealed her expertise to hundreds of people, gone viral in the worst possible way, or maybe the best possible way, depending on how you looked at it. Her phone rang one more time. She almost ignored it. But the caller ID showed a name that made her freeze. Dr. Patricia Morrison, her former dissertation committee member, the one professor who'd believed Maya's side of the story but couldn't stop the university's decision. Maya answered. Dr. Morrison? Maya. The older woman's voice was warm but urgent. I just watched the video. All of it. My God, what you did tonight. The chemistry knowledge, the quick thinking, the courage. That's the Maya I remember from graduate school. Dr. Morrison, I can't go back to research. The fraud allegations are about to be investigated, properly this time. Dr. Morrison's voice carried weight. Dr. Thornton's latest graduate student just came forward. She has evidence he's been stealing research for years. Multiple students, multiple papers. The university is opening a formal investigation. Maya's breath caught. What? His newest student is smarter than he realized. She documented everything, kept copies of her original work before he could claim it. She watched what happened to you and decided she wasn't going to let it happen again. So the university is going to have to admit they were wrong. About you. About all of it. Maya, your PhD should never have been revoked. Your research was legitimate. Your reputation should never have been destroyed. Maya sat down hard on her apartment's only chair. When will this happen? The investigation starts Monday. But I'm calling to tell you something else. That video of you tonight? I've sent it to every biochemistry department head I know. What you did, explaining complex chemistry to lay people while under extreme stress, identifying a toxic reaction that most food chemists would have missed, staying calm while being attacked. That's extraordinary. I was just doing basic chemistry. No, you were doing what the best scientists do, applying knowledge to real-world problems, communicating complex concepts clearly, standing by your expertise even when challenged by people with more social power. That's what makes a great researcher. Dr. Morrison paused. I can't promise you'll get your PhD back immediately. The university moves slowly. But I can promise you that people are watching now, the right people. And when the truth about Thornton comes out, you're going to have opportunities. They talked for another 20 minutes. Dr. Morrison caught her up on the graduate program, on other students who'd gone on to successful careers, on the research that had built on Maya's original work that Thornton had claimed as his own. When they hung up, Maya sat in the dark apartment for a long time. 2 years. 2 years of washing dishes, hiding her knowledge, believing her career was permanently destroyed. And now, because of one terrible night at a restaurant, everything was changing. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. Vincent closed the restaurant. Everyone sent home. He's in his office crying. The health department is coming tomorrow morning. Maya felt a pang of something. Not quite sympathy. More like recognition of shared humanity. Vincent had built something real, even if he'd been arrogant about it. Now he was watching it crumble. But he'd made his choices. He'd refused to listen when warned. He'd created poison through ignorance. He'd blamed others for his mistakes. Those consequences were his to face. Maya opened her laptop and started writing, not for any publication, just for herself. A timeline of everything that had happened, the chemistry of the reaction, the warnings she'd tried to give, the moment she'd made the choice to save Marcus despite the cost. She wrote until 4 a.m., when exhaustion finally pulled her toward sleep. But before turning off the light, she checked her phone one last time. 8 million views. The video was on national news websites. Morning shows were requesting interviews. Her LinkedIn had 4,000 new connection requests. And in her inbox, one email stood out. From the National Institute of Food Science Subject Consulting Position Inquiry. Maya opened it. Dear Dr. Maya, we saw the video from Etoile Restaurant. Your rapid identification of a complex chemical reaction and your clear communication of scientific concepts impressed our board of directors. We would like to discuss a consulting position with our institute. We need someone who understands food chemistry at your level and can communicate it to industry professionals. Your unique background, both scientific expertise and practical restaurant experience, makes you an ideal candidate. Please contact us to discuss details. We believe your knowledge should be shaping food safety policy, not washing dishes. Respectfully, Dr. James Martinez, Director, National Institute of Food Science. Maya read it 3 times. A real position. Using her actual expertise. From people who valued knowledge over credentials. She closed the laptop and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, she'd deal with interviews, with lawyers about her PhD, with job offers and opportunities. Tonight, she'd just let herself feel what she'd been afraid to feel for 2 years. Pride in her knowledge, confidence in her expertise, hope for her future, the dishwasher who'd become a hero, the dismissed expert who'd saved a life, the woman who'd refused to stay silent. That was who she'd always been. She'd just forgotten for a while. 6 months later, the transformation was complete and undeniable. Maya stood in a television studio, preparing for a taping of her new show, The Science of Food, a 6-episode series on a major streaming platform explaining the chemistry behind cooking to home chefs and professionals alike. But the real change had happened 3 months ago, when the university formally reinstated her PhD. Dr. Thornton's investigation had revealed systematic research theft spanning 12 years. 5 graduate students affected. Dozens of papers published under his name that weren't his work. The university issued a public apology, offered Maya financial compensation, invited her back to complete a postdoctoral fellowship. She'd declined. She had better offers. The National Institute of Food Science had hired her as their director of food safety education. Her job, creating chemistry-based training programs for chefs, restaurant owners, and food service workers, teaching the science that could prevent disasters like Etoile. She earned triple what she'd made washing dishes, had her own research budget, got invited to speak at culinary conferences, published papers in both chemistry and culinary journals. But the most satisfying moment came when she walked into the Institute's test kitchen for the first time and saw a team of real chefs, trained professionals, waiting to learn from her. Dr. Maya, the head chef had said, shaking her hand with genuine respect, we're excited to learn food chemistry from someone who actually understands both the science and the kitchen. She'd taught them about molecular interactions, about why certain combinations worked and others didn't, about how to experiment safely with new techniques. They'd listened, taken notes, asked intelligent questions, treated her like the expert she was. The television show had come from a producer who'd seen the Étoile video. We need someone who can explain science without dumbing it down, but also without losing people. You did that under the worst possible circumstances. Imagine what you could do with actual production support. The first episode focused on chemical reactions in cooking. She demonstrated the exact reaction that had happened at Étoile, showing viewers how to identify dangerous combinations. Creativity in cooking is wonderful, she told the camera, but creativity without knowledge is dangerous. Understanding the chemistry doesn't limit your art. It expands it. It shows you what's possible and what's dangerous. It helps you innovate safely. Marcus Webb had written his promised article. It had run as the cover story in his magazine. The Chemist in the Dish Room. How a Michelin-starred restaurant almost killed me while their dishwasher saved my life. The article had done what Maya couldn't do alone. It had forced the industry to confront its biases. How expertise was dismissed based on job titles. How knowledge was devalued when it came from unexpected sources. How hierarchy could literally be deadly. Vincent's restaurant had closed permanently. He'd lost his Michelin star before closing the doors. Lost his investors. Lost his reputation. Last Maya heard, he was working as a sous chef at a hotel restaurant, starting over from scratch. She didn't feel triumph about that, just a kind of sad recognition that pride had destroyed something real. Several of Étoile's staff had reached out to her. Sophie was now working at a restaurant where the chef consulted Maya on menu safety. 2 of the line cooks had enrolled in food science courses, wanting to understand the chemistry behind what they cooked. "You showed us it matters," one of them told her. "We always thought science was for labs, not kitchens. Now we know better." The dishwashing crew from Étoile had started a group chat. They called themselves the Invisible Experts, support network for service workers who had knowledge they couldn't use. Maya helped connect them with educational opportunities, with job leads, with ways to leverage expertise the world tried to ignore. Today's show taping was special. The guest was a young woman who'd been working as a janitor at a biotech company while holding a master's degree in molecular biology. Immigration issues had left her unable to work in her field. She'd been cleaning labs while understanding the experiments better than some of the researchers. "Your story inspired me to speak up," the woman told Maya in the green room before filming. "I told my supervisor I understood the science. Now I'm back in research." These were the stories that made everything worthwhile. Not the fame, not the money, not even the vindication, but the other people who'd been dismissed finding their voices, finding their paths back to using their expertise. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Morrison. "Turn on Channel 7? Now." She found a monitor. A news anchor was interviewing a young woman Maya recognized, Dr. Thornton's latest victim, the one whose documentation had brought him down. "Dr. Thornton was sentenced today to 2 years in prison for research fraud," the anchor said. "But many say the real hero of this story is someone he victimized years ago. Dr. Maya, whose expertise was hidden in a restaurant until one night when she saved a life and exposed an industry's biases." The former student spoke clearly. "Maya fought the system alone and lost. I fought it with evidence because I'd seen what happened to her. She paved the way for the rest of us to be believed. That's her legacy." Maya felt tears forming, not for herself. For every person who'd been dismissed, ignored, told they didn't belong. Every expert washing dishes, driving cars, cleaning offices, capable of so much more if someone would just listen. The studio director called out, "5 minutes to filming, Dr. Maya." She took her position on set. The cooking demonstration was ready. Today, she'd teach viewers about emulsification, the chemistry of making sauces stable. Simple concept, complicated science. Her specialty was making both accessible. The cameras started rolling. Maya looked directly at the lens, imagining the people watching at home. "Today we're talking about emulsions," she began. "The chemistry of combining things that normally don't mix. Oil and water. Different backgrounds and different expertise. The key is understanding the science of how things actually work, not just how we assume they work." She demonstrated, explaining molecular structures as she whisked together oil and egg yolk. In kitchens and in life, we often make assumptions about what belongs together and what doesn't. We assume certain people have certain knowledge and others don't. We judge expertise by job titles instead of actual understanding. The sauce came together perfectly in her bowl. But chemistry doesn't care about our assumptions. Molecules interact based on their actual properties, not what we think about them. The same is true for people. Knowledge exists everywhere. Expertise doesn't wear a uniform. And sometimes the person who can save your life is the one you've been dismissing as unqualified. She held up the perfect emulsion to the camera. The beautiful thing about science is that it's democratic. It doesn't care who you are, where you work, or what degree you have. It only cares about whether you understand how things actually work. Everything else is just social construction. The director called cut. Perfect take. Maya cleaned her hands, removed her mic, and checked her phone. 17 new messages, job offers, speaking requests, students wanting mentorship, other invisible experts sharing their stories. She couldn't respond to them all, but she could respond to some, could help open doors that had been closed, could be the person she'd needed 2 years ago when she'd felt completely alone. Her production assistant approached. "Dr. Maya, there's someone here to see you. Says he worked with you at your previous job." Maya's heart sank. Vincent. It had to be. She'd been dreading this confrontation. "Send him in." But it wasn't Vincent. It was Marcus, the line cook who'd enrolled in food science classes. "Dr. Maya." He was nervous, clutching a notebook. "I'm sorry to just show up, but I wanted to show you something." He opened the notebook. Pages of calculations, molecular diagrams, experimental notes. "I've been developing new dishes using the chemistry you taught us. I want to open my own restaurant someday, but I want to do it right. Science-based, safe, creative, but informed." He looked up at her with hope in his eyes. "Would you look at my recipes? Tell me if the chemistry works? I can't pay you, but—" "I'll do it for free," Maya interrupted. "Show me what you've got." They spent an hour going through his notebook. His recipes were creative and scientifically sound. He'd understood the lessons, applied them properly. This was the future of cooking, creativity informed by knowledge. "This is really good work," Maya told him honestly. "Have you thought about culinary school?" "Can't afford it. I'm saving money, but it'll take years." Maya thought for a moment. "Let me make some calls. I know people now. People who fund food, science education, people who value knowledge over pedigree. You have potential, real potential. Let's see if we can find you opportunities." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Why would you help me? You don't owe me anything." "Because someone should have helped me when I needed it. Because expertise deserves support. Because you remind me that there are people who want to learn, who want to do better, who understand that science makes cooking better, not worse." She handed back his notebook. "Keep developing these recipes, keep studying, keep asking questions, and don't let anyone tell you that your background disqualifies you from expertise. Knowledge is knowledge, regardless of where it comes from." After he left, Maya sat alone in the empty studio. Tomorrow she'd film another episode. Next week, she'd give a keynote at a culinary conference. Next month, she'd publish a paper on food safety education. But tonight, she just wanted to sit with the quiet satisfaction of knowing she'd helped someone avoid the years of struggle she'd endured. Her phone buzzed one more time. Email from an unexpected sender, Vincent. She almost deleted it unread, but curiosity won. "Dr. Maya, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness. But I needed to write it anyway. I destroyed my career through arrogance. I poisoned people through ignorance. I treated you terribly because I felt threatened by knowledge I didn't have. You were right about everything. The chemistry, the danger, the need to understand science. I've spent 6 months working under a chef who studied food science, learning what I should have learned years ago, understanding how little I actually knew. I don't deserve your help or your time, but I wanted you to know that you changed how I think about expertise, about knowledge, about respecting people regardless of their job titles. You saved my critic's life. You tried to save my career. I responded with cruelty. That shame will follow me forever. I hope you're doing well. I hope the world finally recognizes what I was too blind to see." Respectfully, Vincent, Maya read it twice, then closed her laptop without responding. Some apologies didn't need responses. Some lessons had to be learned through consequences. Vincent had faced his. She had moved beyond hers. The final truth that mattered was simpler than any chemistry equation. Expertise existed everywhere, in dishwashers and janitors and drivers and cleaners, in people dismissed and overlooked and told to stay in their lanes. The question wasn't whether that expertise existed. It always had. It always would. The question was whether people were willing to listen when it spoke. Maya had spent 2 years silent. Then one night, she'd refused to stay quiet while someone died. That choice had changed everything, not just for her, but for everyone watching who'd ever been dismissed, everyone told they weren't qualified, everyone whose knowledge had been ignored. She'd shown them what was possible when expertise refused to be invisible. And that was a legacy worth more than any Michelin star. Have you ever been told you weren't qualified? That you should stay in your lane? That your knowledge didn't matter because of your job title? Share your story in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of hidden experts, dismissed knowledge, and the moment when expertise can no longer be ignored. Because somewhere right now, there's a chemist washing dishes, an engineer driving a car, a doctor cleaning offices, a mathematician working retail. Don't assume you know who the experts are. Listen when knowledge speaks, regardless of its uniform. Remember, chemistry doesn't care about your job title. Science doesn't care about your credentials. Truth doesn't care about your hierarchy. The most dangerous assumption is that expertise only exists where you expect to find it. Maya proved that wrong, and she's just getting started.